Welcome to Our Future is Kind, a podcast exploring how we build the future we want to live in, one kind act at a time. I'm your host, Michael Neece, president of Our Future is Kind, and your companion in conversations about kindness, leadership, connection, and courage. Each week, I sit down with thoughtful leaders, creators, and bridge builders to explore what a healthier, more humane future could look like, and the choices it takes to build it. These are honest conversations about purpose, culture, curiosity, and what it really means to show up for one another at work, in our communities, and in everyday life. Along the way, we'll unearth practical ideas, small but meaningful acts, and questions worth sitting with, because building what's next is a choice. So let's dive in. Jennifer White is the founder of the Happy Human Academy, a community of out-of-the-box seekers working together to create healthier, more fulfilling lives for ourselves while also contributing to the common good. They're dedicated to global change from the inside out. Jennifer White, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, Michael.
Yeah, there are plenty of other accolades that I could have included in your introduction here, but I'm going to leave that to you. I'm going to ask you a very simple question. Jennifer White, what makes you, you?
So that's your simple question.
Simple, straightforward.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll start with a simple question. Well, that is a great question. I would say that there's a couple things. I think one of the things that I feel about myself is that I have this insatiable curiosity, which has led me to, if you saw in my bio, what I call all the P's, like philosophy, physics, physiology, all of those different things. I've always been really curious about why things are the way they are. How do we work? How does the world work? Why do we do things the way we do? Why does the world unfold in the way that it does? So that led me to be kind of a academic and professional mutt. So there's that sort of insatiable curiosity. And I feel like for me, the driving question for me, sort of the area of curiosity that's biggest for me is what's it going to take? And I felt this as a little kid, like, what's it going to take for us to be happier and healthier? And what can I do? And how can I make the world a better place? Like, I've always just felt like that's been what's called to me or led me in my life. And as you and I become friends, one of the things that you would come to know about me is that I love to laugh. People have always said, oh, this saving the world thing doesn't work out. You could always be a stand-up comedian. But I also, at the very same time, the people who are my dearest friends are the ones who love to play and be really silly and, find the humor in things, even hard things, but also are not willing to go to that really deep place. Like, I don't have a lot of tolerance for the chit chat at at a party where we have to talk about sports and the weather and all that kind of stuff. Like, I want to get right in there. Like, what are you afraid of? What matters most to you? What do you really love? And so those are some of the things, I guess, that make me me.
You're a very real person. I think that was the first thing that I noticed about you when we spoke by Zoom a couple of months ago now. Just that I'm not going to say you don't pull any punches, because I don't think you throw any punches. I think it's more exactly, I think it's more that you are ready to have those very real conversations about the depths of what do we all need more of, and how do we connect better, and those kinds of conversations. So I just love the fact that you have the Happy Human Academy. I mean, gosh, what a great name,
Thank you.
for a collective. Wow, that's really cool. How did you come up with that, and tell us a little bit more about it?
Well, I started out. It's kind of everything's going to be a long story, I'm afraid. That's one of the things that I feel like I don't fit very well into a box, which is part of why I put out of the box seekers, because, when you market, everything's supposed to be simple, find the clear message. Like, what's the one thing you do? And I'm terrible at what is the one thing that I do? Because I love to find the root cause, but I'm always like, how are these things connected? Like, what are the leverage points? And all of the things that I've studied in my life were all about answering that one question. So maybe that's my one thing. That's how I can simplify things. I'm trying to answer that one question. But I think the challenge is that the answer to that isn't just one thing. It's like, are you healthy? If I ask you right now, you're healthy. Well, what am I talking about? Your cardiovascular health? Is you're healthy in your relationship, in your community? Like what do you actually mean by health? And if you're going to be healthy, then all of those different pieces have to come into play. So I've studied all these different things and taught all these different things and spoken about all these different things. And it was always like putting all these pieces together. Like I'd learn one aspect of it and realize like, all right, well, yeah, this is important for us to be happy and healthy and make the world a better place. But what about this piece? And so then I would go and, all right, well, that seems like it intersects here. Oh dear, now there's this piece and there's this piece and this piece. And for me, I was realizing, like, why aren't we learning these things in school? You know, I had all these friends, like you don't learn communication skills in school. You don't necessarily learn how to find what you love. You learn how to make money and find a career, but that may or may not be the thing that matters most to you or that you really love. You may not learn how to unravel all of the bad, unhelpful, dysfunctional patterns that you learned in your family system. And we all are experiencing these things all the time. You may not learn how to be more sustainable in your life, but we're all, as human beings, we all share the same physical body, all the same sort of machinery is in most of us, 99.9% of that we kind of share. Same thing in the world. We're all on the same planet. So it always sort of frustrated me or fascinated me, like, why are we not learning all of those things in school? Why isn't there not a class about that? So that's what I went and studied, because you couldn't just go one place and find all those things. So read this book and get fascinated with this thing and fascinated with this thing. And so I was always looking for those leverage points too. Like, are there things that we can do in one area that happen to improve things in a lot of other areas at the same time? So getting to the Happy Human Academy, like that name, I had actually the Happy Human Handbook. I thought, I had a website for a while, Happy Human Handbook, which I still own that domain, I guess. But I have, in addition to all of this stuff that we've been talking about already, I'm also, with my partner Jimmy, a musician. And another long story. We're going to have to talk for like 3 days. I became a voice artist. And before that, I had this idea, because when I teach, I sometimes take on different accents or personalities just to make things fun. And this is teaching everything from traffic accident reconstruction to immunology to communication skills to sustainability. I mean, I've taught a lot of things in my life. But I always love to make it fun, because I love to learn. And I feel like even if it's a hard subject, I want it to be fun. So in my family system, we're a bunch of nutcases. I mean, it's talk about stand-up comedy. Come over to our house for that. But I always love to make things fun. So I thought, well, what are all those different pieces that we need to learn? And I created like a podcast, blogcast, I called it, because some weeks I would write, and other weeks I would create these little 3 to 7 minute long recordings of me using a different voice, but talking about something to do with health and sustainability. And so I called it the Happy Human Handbook Podcast. And I'm kind of at one of those inflection points in my life right now. And I know you've been through several of those. I've heard some of your podcast interviews yourself, where you get to the apex of some career and then it's like, it's time for something else. And I feel like I'm at one of those like transition points in life, which kind of irritates me being here with you right now, because I'd like to be here. I'd like to be here talking about, look at the fabulous and how much and all of this that I've done, but I'm not. I'm kind of at one of those inflection points. I'm coming out of a really busy career as a voice artist and looking for what is my next thing. And for me, the Happy Human Academy and this work that Jimmy and I are starting to do with these keynote concerts is the culmination of all of that stuff. Like, this is as real and vulnerable as I can get, because it's all of the stuff that I love. And it's explaining it and presenting it in a way that's true to me. It's not within some other organization's model. I'm not trying to realize someone else's vision or some other organization's strategies or whatever. This is like my own thing. And it's not about happiness, which is, I don't know why Happy Human Academy, why would I call it that? Well, because you can't say the 10,000 Joys and 10,000 Sorrows Academy, or you can't say the Whole System Sustainability Academy, or all the things like I was talking about with health. Like, there's all these different aspects of it. But if you ask people, what do you want?
Mm.
What do they say? I want to be happy. And we don't maybe necessarily know what is going to lead to our own personal happiness, but we have a sense of that's what we want, but that's not really what we want. Like, is it joy? Is it meaning? Is it autonomy? Is it health? Is it safety? Is it love? It's belonging. Like, yeah, it's all of those things, but the shorthand for all of that is happiness. So I feel like that's, from a marketing perspective, if that's what it is, that's what's going to draw people in. And then secretly, down here, we're do all
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you have to address all of it, right? I mean,
You
to be a human being means that you will face sorrow and grief at some point. You will face moments of righteous indignation and anger and frustration. You'll face all of those things. I think it's a matter of putting everything into a context. And I love the fact that you do that. It sounds like you're just drawing together so many different strands so that you can weave something that ends up being happiness. And I love that. I think it's so exciting.
That was nice. I'm going to write that out. That was very well done.
Well, it's one of the reasons that I wanted you desperately as a co-author. So for those who are listening in right now, Jennifer and I are writing a book together with 23 of our new best friends.
Right.
And the book is Our Future is Kind, The Ultimate Guide to Making a Difference. And one of the reasons that I wanted to have you in this book is you think about the future. You think about what humanity could look like. When you're thinking about this book that we're writing and that's coming out later in November, what are your thoughts about the book? What attracted you to the project? What do you don't have to give away all of your secrets of what you're going to write about, but how are you thinking about this book in terms of what we're giving the world?
That's a great question. And I'm glad I don't have to give it all away, because some of it's still a secret to me. I feel like it's percolating and marinating in there.
Sure.
But I mean, just the title itself, Our Future is Kind. I mean, I love that title of your business, but I would much rather have a conversation with people about what they are for than what they're against. And I've heard I don't know if it's in your speaker demo trail or whatever, where you talk about which of the things are we going to be better at? It's the thing that we practice, right? And so for me, that is what I want from the future. I want a kinder future. And I feel like if I focus on, division, or I focus on hatred, or I focus on all the things that are wrong with the world, and working in the sustainability field and waking up in the morning and focusing on climate change, that can make a person want to crawl back underneath the bed. That's a big hairy problem. Like what, a lot of people are working on that, but I still have this sense of hope. And it's not this like blind, naive optimism. It's just, I have a sense of faith in humanity's goodness or heart. I feel like a lot of times we act out in a way that's mean or violent or aggressive or unkind when we're feeling threatened, when we don't feel safe, when we don't feel that we are enough. And that's part of why I talk about global change from the inside out. But I love the idea of being part of a group of people who are trying to create the future that we want, not sitting and complaining about the future, being afraid of a future that might be. Like, let's figure out what can we do today in my own individual life, in the interactions that I have. If I have the opportunity to have more leverage as part of I'm a manager, or I own a company, or I a leader in my community, then maybe I have a little bit more influence to do that. But if I read this great book when I was a kid by Joanne Stover called If Everybody Did. I actually have a copy of it on my shelf over here.
Oh, cool.
And it's about, all the little things that we can do. Like if everybody tracks, if just you and I track mud on the floor into the house, or just you and I squeeze the cat, or just you and I drop a few tacks on the floor, not a big deal. But
Right.
if everybody did, and then they have all these comic pictures of, the cat's got looks like this, it's all squished in the middle, or tacks in everything, all the furniture and the ceiling, mud hanging from everybody's hair and all that kind of stuff. So
Right.
that book really shaped my approach to things. Like, I'm chewing gum in the third grade. And when I going to put my gum underneath the table or the desk? Like, well, so what if I do it? At least I get rid of my gum. But what if everybody did? And I
Right.
tended to think that way, and I still think that way today. And that's part of what draws me to a book like this. Is like, what if everybody did? And certainly I can't change the world by myself. It's not my job to change the whole world by myself. But I can change myself. That's why I like to talk about global change from the inside out. So looking at all the different aspects of myself, starting here, what really matters, being present, figuring out what matters most to me, being the best version of myself that I can, behaving in the world in a way that I wish everybody did, And it's harder to do when you're grumpy. It's harder to do when you're tired. It's harder to do when you're exhausted, when you're not living the life that feels good to you. It's harder to do that. But if now I'm running an organization and I can purchase from companies who have a great human rights record or are thinking about sustainability, now I have a little bit more leverage. And yeah, maybe it costs me a little bit more to do that, or I can invest my retirement funds in things that aren't maybe making the world a little bit harder, worse for other people. But that feels good to me. If I'm making a little less money, my investments, because I'm doing that, that's okay with me, because at the end of the day, I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror and be happy with myself, to feel like I'm acting in integrity. And, so anyways, I'm just really excited. And, looking at all the people that are going to be part of this project. I mean, just to be around, like I said, I was so excited that you got to go to the Kindness Summit, because to be around a group of people that are thinking in that way feeds me. It's very nourishing to be around it, and it's inspiring, and helps me to, when I get tired, it helps me to keep going, I guess.
Well, it's great to have the reminders that we are a large community, and there's also a silent component of humanity that isn't really vocalizing it, or they don't know that it's what they want, but when they really stop and think about it, it is what they want.
Mhm.
But I love the fact that you were thinking of it as this community, and that there are different ways of connecting. Talk to me for a minute about laughter
Mm.
and about music as ways that you help connect people, because those are things that we've already bubbled up a couple of times, and I just know that these are important to you. So how do you see those as strengthening community?
Well, like I said, I grew up in a family that we, in our community, we are known for our sense of humor. My dad has been gone for a long time, but he was, like, oh, I love seeing your dad. He always had a joke. And when he got older, he got, up to being 80, he used to carry a little piece of paper that he had folded up, that must have folded that thing a million times, because he couldn't remember the joke sometimes. But as
Right.
soon as he would see somebody, it was all about connecting with somebody and telling a little fun story. And I just learned growing up, and we teased each other, but it wasn't mean teasing.
Sure.
Like, I
Yeah.
am so uncomfortable with those roasts, they roast somebody. Like, that
Yeah.
just
This is
feels mean. Like, it doesn't
it
feel
is.
funny to me. It just feels mean. So it's appropriate humor. It's humor that doesn't demean people, but I just really see, for me, a lot of things are this sort of both and.
Mhm.
I feel like I only have one heart inside of me, and the heart that's going to feel the devastation of, you know, loss or fear or anxiety, like, that's the same heart that is going to feel elation and joy and purpose and all of those things. And to the degree that I shut myself down to the hard things is the same degree that I shut myself down to the joy and the laughter. And I've had the opportunity to be around people who were living with a life-threatening illness, and watching people go through that and seeing how in the midst of the end of their life, they were still finding things to bring joy into their lives and a way to have fun and all of that. And I remember our family actually experienced a really devastating loss. My brother, two sisters and two brothers, now one brother. And our brother took his own life in 2015. And that was one of the most heart-shattering experiences that I've ever been through. I mean, our family, the community, he was loved by this community. But even at that, his celebration of life, he was a local cop. And all of the emergency personnel and fire department and police were all lined up. The church was packed. There's a balcony. And so they were all standing up all around the church through the whole thing. And my brother, he was the first, my other brother got up to speak. And one of the things that he said right at the beginning was, we would just, we appreciate you all being here. And we would just like to apologize right now to all the people whose 911 calls are not being answered, because every police officer, firemen, and emergency personnel were all in that space with us, and it got a laugh from the crowd. And it was just, and all of our remarks were about really appreciating some of the things about him. And I just feel like I said before about laughter and how it makes learning more fun. It makes life more bearable. It's one of the things that really brings us together. Even if you don't share a language, if you see something funny that happens, some kind of physical comedy, you can share in that joy together. And I guess that's probably one of the things too that I feel about music is like, it's a universal language in the same way laughter is a universal language. I feel like music is as well. And, if I ask you, what are some of your favorite songs from high school? When you think of one of those songs, like it'll put you right back. You can probably remember what you're wearing, if you were in a car, if you were with friends. I mean, it just brings us back. Music can, bring you out of a bad mood. It can make you cry. It can do a lot of things. It really connects us emotionally to each other. And just like laughter, I feel like music can really help us. It connects us emotionally with each other. And it can also really help us to learn in a way. If you put something in a song, a message in a song, it might stay with you in a way that it wouldn't otherwise. And so that's one of the things that I think I'm really excited about, this kind of keynote concert concept. I've been speaking like you. I've been probably teaching and training and leading and facilitating and all that since my 20s. And then before that, I was a coach and a tutor. I mean, it's just something I feel like I love to do it. So that part of it is not new. My partner and I have been playing together now since 2002, I think. So the music part's not new. It's just bringing these two things together and all these messages together. Like I'm going to find that quote from you, the weaving together of the tapestry of the whatever you said. So great, right? Just bringing those things together in a way that engages people. And I heard this great phrase, collective effervescence. Have you ever heard that?
Oh, I haven't.
Something that happens when a crowd is together and does something in unison, when you do a wave together in a big stadium, or when you're all singing the same song together, get this thing happens to us, this collective effervescence. And I just love that term.
Yeah, you hit on so many really good things there. When I was at the the K20 Kindness Without Borders Summit, back in May. it was extraordinary because you would have somebody who would speak, and it would connect with the audience in a certain way. But then we had a poetry reading, and you could hear people gasp or chuckle. You'd see people reaching for a Kleenex to cry into. And then we had somebody who played music and sang. He strummed his guitar and he was magnificent. And people were swaying side to side and singing to each other with smiles on their faces. And it's just, there's so many different ways to connect. Talk to me a little bit about, though, you brought up this great concept. If you are numbing yourself out or closing yourself off to hard things, you're doing that also with all the good things. Talk to me about that a little bit, because I think we don't think about that so much. We pick up our phones to, get through some of the moments of boredom or the moments of frustration, and we're scrolling and whatnot. But what else is that doing to us?
Well, I feel like, and it's natural for us to want to pull away from things that are hard and hurtful. We are drawn towards pleasure, and we, repel ourselves from pain. We pull ourselves away from pain, and that certainly makes a lot of sense. But like I said, we only have the one heart. If we had two, that would be convenient. Then you could say, well, let me close this one down to all the things that are hard and hurtful and scary and bad, and I'll leave this one wide open for all of the things that are gonna, bring me joy and connect with me. And I think there's just, I hear people talk about, I don't give a crap what people think about me. Like online. Well, they may have a big online presence or whatever. Well, I don't care. People have to make comments about me. I don't care. And
Right.
One, I don't necessarily believe them. But if I feel like in order to do that, in order to shut myself down from people's input, I need to shut myself down totally. Like, again, the one heart gets shut down. So I feel like it's not a matter of, in any moment, well, I got to be open to this and close to this, open to this and close to this. Like, that just doesn't, it's not practical, and it doesn't necessarily work. And so what I feel has helped for me is it feels like expanding my capacity to hold all of it. Part of that I feel having a mindfulness practice to be able to separate myself a little bit from the feelings, to be with something that might be hard or be with something that might be wonderful in a really present, grounded, like to really be in my body, to do that in a really present and grounded way helps. But, like I said at the beginning, when I have lost people or gone through something hard, like I'll tell you, and you can buy stock in Kleenex, because I am not going to hold back. I mean, I don't have any problem with sharing my feelings with people that are close to me, through crying and, just letting it move through me. I feel like if I were to try and tamp that all down, it doesn't go anywhere. Where's it going to go? I'm in my body, and there's no place out. There's no release valve.
Right.
So being able to be with that and let it out, it's like you have a certain amount of grief to get rid of, if there is such a thing. And you can either squish it down and it'll come out in little fits and starts here and there at the grocery store, or you can be more intentional about giving yourself space and getting support to process those as they come up. But if I can, expand my ability to be with those things, then I can also expand my ability to be delighted by the world, being able to be present and really savor things, to be really present. And even though we're far away, to really experience you, to be present with you and look into your eyes, or, with people that we're with, or to enjoy a meal, and, all the things that we have. And I feel like, there's so much that coming at us all this time, all this negative stuff that we now have access to 24 hours a day. I don't know, you're probably only 27, but if you were a little older, right? If you were a little older, you would remember a time where there's only a couple of TV channels.
Right.
Right. And we got the newspaper, but there wasn't like this influx of this horrible thing, this horrible thing, this horrible thing, or this horrible thing. And because the news channels, all the hard stuff, all the hard, scary stuff sells, we're not hearing this wonderful thing and this horrible thing. And here's some more wonderful things and a horrible thing. It's all the big, scary things. And that's like our nervous systems get overwhelmed with all of that tragedy. I mean, it's hard to process that. So it feels natural to kind of numb ourselves. But again, it's hard to numb ourselves discreetly, numb ourselves in this setting and then not numb ourselves in this other setting. So I think with social media, we've created these, it's like our nervous systems don't really know how to be out there with all this stimulation and to try and like perform for all of these people that we don't know, as opposed to the people that, I think if a friend tells me, that wasn't really cool, then that's really going to sit with me. Somebody I don't know says the same thing. I might take that in and say, well, look at my behavior, or maybe it was good, but they don't know me. Right.
Right.
Anyways, I think I don't know how we balance those things. I think it can be really challenging, but I do feel like I don't want to have to close down. That doesn't feel natural to me. I grew up in a really small town in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So you say hi to everybody, whether you know them or not. You're friendly with everybody, whether you know them or not. And then I moved to Chicago.
Different.
Hi, you're not supposed to look at people, look down, get the mean face, and I'm not calibrated for the city, to shut myself down and divorce myself from my emotions all the time, or at least when I'm out in the world, was just not natural for me. And, in terms of being kind, if I don't think you're like me and I'm not open to you, then I have no reason to be kind to you. If it's a sort of us and them, if I can see that you are in some ways like me, then, and I want people to be kind to me, that's all do unto others. Right.
Right.
So I don't know. I think we've created these environments for ourselves that make it even harder to show up and be vulnerable, because we get input in a way that I think our nervous systems, I know mine, is not calibrated for that.
Right. I'd rather be wide open and feel the hurtful stuff and process it than be closed down to the potential joys that are going to show up in daily living. I mean, there are joys to be found everywhere. And I think you're absolutely right. If you shut yourself down to some of the things, you shut yourself down to a lot of the things.
Yeah.
That's hard. And just as a note to all of our listeners, if you are processing big, heavy things, there are places to turn. If you have never considered therapy, do it. It's some of the best money you'll ever spend. There are always trusted people that you can reach out to. If you don't know where to go, reach out to Jennifer, reach out to me. We're here for you, for sure. I want to take you into a thought experiment that we love to do here on Our Future is Kind. Are you ready to go into the realm of imagination?
I am.
Okay. All right.
Strap in.
So, Jennifer, you are going to steer us to a bright, amazing future. We're getting into a time machine and you're at the controls, and you are going to take us to 2126, 100 years in the future. So everybody listening in, add 100 to the age of anybody that you know. We're not here, but we've left behind things for others who are here. So 2126, Jennifer, you're flying us there. We get out of the time machine and I say, hey, we did all the things right. We did all the good things. What are you stepping out and looking for to confirm that we got it all right, that this is the best future?
All the things, we got to do all the things.
We did all the things right. All of them. Yeah.
Oh, all the things. Wow. Well, I feel like, working in the sustainability field, one of the most commonly quoted definitions of sustainability, I think it's from the 1987 Brundtland Commission, meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And when I was in the sustainability field, that's like it wasn't enough for me to just have it be environmental sustainability, but I want to see that, that's going on because this is our life support system, literally. Like everything we need to live, work, and play comes from the environment. If we were to hold our breath right now, that's from the environment. That wouldn't go very well. Water, food, all those kinds of things. So, but I can be the most sustainable person on the planet, but if my relationship is in the toilet, or I don't live in a safe community, or I don't have the means to provide for my basic needs, then that's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. So I was always talking about whole system sustainability. So personal well-being, social justice, economic stability, and ecological balance. And I would love us to have an educational system that teaches us all the things that we need to do and know to be happy and healthy and make the world a better place, so we can discover what matters most. And people have the time and the support to really focus on what matters most to them. And I would like to see everybody's basic needs met, and for us to be joyful and kind. I'm all on board with the kind thing. Yeah. But I don't want to sand all the edges off of everything. I don't want to see, I don't want sameness in this future. Sure. I want the diversity, and I don't feel like we'll ever get to a place where we can eliminate pain, because if I love you and then you're gone, you leave this planet before I do, I'm going to cry. I'm going to be sad. So it's not about getting rid of all of the hard things. It's not about getting rid of struggle. I feel like I learn a lot from those things that, it makes me stronger, and I might change my behavior in some way by learning from those things. So I don't want all that to go away, but I think, one of the ways I like to think about it is expanding and extending our locus of care from just myself or the people like me or the people I know to people who aren't like me, to people who are geographically far removed from me, who might be far removed from me even in time, thinking about future generations. I have a friend of mine, Jim Merkel, who wrote a great book called Radical Simplicity. And he has this great way of describing sustainability. And what he says is that we're all at a big buffet table. And on that buffet table are all of the things that we need to live, work, and play, to do everything: medicine, art, food, all the requirements that we need, including fresh air and clean water, all that kind of stuff to have the life that we want. And standing in line is everybody on the planet, and everybody who's going to live, and also in line are all of the other beings on the planet who need the environment to do what they need to do. And the question of sustainability is, at that table where all of those resources are, you're first in line with everybody behind you. How much do you take? And, I think we think of kindness as, being nice to the person in the grocery store or to people that we work with and all of that. But I feel like because everything is so interconnected these days, all of the things that we're using, we're touched by who knows how many people, right? To extract all those resources, to manufacture them, to sell them, to do all those things. We're all up and downstream from one another. We can't, there aren't like little separate discrete areas. So if I'm not able to expand my locus of care to people I may not even meet, then I may not be acting in a way that's in alignment with my own personal integrity. So there's like a personal integrity and then more of like a global ethic. And what does that look like?
Right. Well, yeah, it conjures up the great question of what do we owe to each other? And if you're standing in that line, if there's some way of saying, well, you should take, on average, this is the percentage that you are allowed to take. Here's a number. And then as you're loading up your cart to take things away, it will tally up and say, well, you've exceeded a little.
Right.
Do you want to tamp that down a little? Put some jugs of water back and an iPod or whatever it is that you're listening to your music, and do you want to put a few things back so that you're not doing harm to other people? You're not taking from the mouths of the children in some other country. I love that visualization that you just gave me. It's now got my mind just running forward into what am I writing next, because I want to explore that concept. That's really cool. So Jennifer, here comes the harder question. Right?
And the simple one. That was the first one, was the simple one, and now we're at the harder one.
Right. Yeah, this is going to be the hardest one of the whole show. We've gone to the best future, and people are sharing the abundance. They're handing down things to others. But how do we get there? I said we did all the right things. What are those right things? Because right now we're here. We have to connect the dots to try to get there. How do we connect the dots? What do we do?
Well, I feel like, and I can only speak from the things that I've been interested in and studied and have worked for me. These might not work for other people, but I feel like one of the core things for me is being present, really knowing how to be present. Because if I'm trying to figure out how to take care of myself, like my own well-being, then I need to be present about what is in alignment with my well-being and what isn't in alignment with my well-being, to be able to be present in my body, to understand, if I act in a particular way, is that really the way that I want to act? Am I running some old pattern or something? So presence, I think, helps me be aware of what I need to do to reach my own personal potential, or to be healthy from all the different ways that, health can apply. But it also helps me to really savor life and get to a place where things might be enough. If I'm always looking for the next thing, then I can never get to a place where it's enough. And I feel like a belonging is another important aspect of our well-being, and it allows us to feel like we have the capacity to be kind and do some of these hard things, and it keeps us nourished. So presence is a part of that as well. I think giving people the opportunity to connect with what really matters most, giving them the resources and the tools and the motivation that they need to understand what those things are. And I don't feel like we offer that in our educational system. And I'd love to see that become a little bit more of what we do in education. And also having the ability to recognize, or to say, just like me, this person wants, and all the things that you could list, right? A sense of autonomy, safety and security, belonging, connection, health, well-being, all those different things, a safe community, a safe environment. And I feel like in that future, I hope there's a little bit better balance between nature and technology, because nature is that, our life support system. And right now, a lot of our technology is not as sustainable as it needs to be. Learning how to be more kind to each other, figuring out what we really need. There's a big difference between what we might want and what we might need, and really answering that for ourselves. I think a lot of us work really hard because we want the thing, and then we get there and we realize, oh no, that wasn't the thing. That wasn't the thing I wanted. I'm trying to fill a bucket, it's a different bucket, or there's a hole in that bucket. So, so I think some of the things, and I think we talked about some of those things already, but that would be some of what's going to get us there, I hope. And I'd love to go there. If you figure it out, maybe we will in the book. When the book comes out, November 13th, right? When the book comes out.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I think when this book does come out on World Kindness Day, I think that there will be so many tips that people can pick up on how to be more present, how to cultivate a sense of belonging, how to think about others in your presence and connect with them better. So I'm really looking forward to your chapter in particular. I can't wait to read it. But Jennifer, let me ask you a really frank question. I mean, there are moments in our lives that are not great. the loss of a loved one like your brother.
Mm-hmm.
We look at the news and a war has sprung up. Um, you go into your yard and you're trying to grow a garden, and all of one section has just been ravaged by a rabbit, and now you don't get to have these lovely things. Things go wrong. So how do you pick yourself back up? How do you find inspiration again? How do you find joy so that you can be kind to other people? Because it's really hard to be kind to others if you are feeling like everything is bashing you over the head. So how do you pick yourself back up?
Absolutely. Well, like I said, one of the things that I give myself the space to do is to feel whatever it is that I'm feeling. If there is a loss or something's hard, or like happened to us a couple years ago, we had 6 groundhogs. 6, not
Wow.
just one. Then there was 2,
Wow.
and then sometimes because there's 2, there's more.
Right.
Now there's no gardens, flowers, nothing out there, so the big and the little things, but to allow myself to be frustrated and feel the feelings. But then, even in the midst of like the loss of my brother, one of the things that I realized, I went to some support groups after that, and there were people in there who they weren't allowed to talk about it because there was shame around that in their family. So you
Sure.
weren't allowed to talk about how grandma died, or,
Mm.
we just don't even talk about grandma, or they didn't have any social supports. Like I would be walking through the grocery store. Somebody would come up to me that I didn't even know and hug me
Mm.
and step back and look me in the eye and then walk away from me.
Wow.
I mean, we had the most incredible support from the community. And I had an experience also that really solidified this too, was the people that run the local funeral home have it's a ceremony, an event once a year where everybody who lost someone that year gets a little star with a person's name and birth and death date on it.
Mm.
And so I was there with one of my sisters and my mother, and
Mm.
in the moment I was like, so, oh my gosh, and feeling for my mom, it was hard for me, so hard for her. And sort of, um, my focus was like on our grief, and what that had been for us. And then I
Right.
started to look around. And like I said, I live in a pretty small town and the church was pretty full.
Right.
And as they started reading the names of all of these people, I know the effect that loss had on us, but all of the friends and family and all the impact, that the ripples of that loss on us. But now I'm looking at, here's so and so who lost their mother. Here's so and so who lost their daughter. Here's so and so who lost their grandparents. Their partner. And I thought, I have walked by these people in the grocery store. We're
Right.
all going through something. And so I learned to look for, you wrote in your book, The Joy Unleashed, one of your chapter things, the silver linings. I'm a silver
Yes.
linings girl,
Mm.
like even though I'm going through this, like my partner went through a series of really hard medical diagnoses and things like that. And it's like, well, we've got health insurance.
Mm.
I have a family and a friend, a support group who's gonna, we're not trying to go through this in a war zone. We're not trying to go through this not being able to pay our rent. We're not trying to go through this, when the groundhogs ate, like, well, I won't be weeding.
Right. Right. Yeah.
More time to do other things because there's nothing to weed. I'm
Right.
always looking for, um, yes, this is hard, and acknowledging that this is hard, but then also looking to see what there is to be grateful for, and also looking for a sense of agency. Like, with all the stuff that's going on in the world, I can't do a lot about a lot of those things, but if I see an older person coming out of the grocery store, struggling with their cart and their groceries and everything, I can run over there. I don't know this person. Let me help you, take them to their car, open the door, that's the kind of world I want to live in. When I'm an old person coming out of the grocery store, I hope there's going to be somebody who's going to run over and help me. Like, that's something that I can do. But if I focus on all the things that I can't do, I just get more overwhelmed. I get more anxious. I get more sad. I get more depressed. So I feel like focusing on what I can and can't control, focusing on the things that I do have to be grateful for, not as a way to ignore or numb from the things that are going on, or acknowledging like, this is hard. I wish it was different, but then what can I do to make a difference?
I love that. There are a couple of co-authors that we have in this upcoming book that you really need to talk to, Brian Biro and Sherry Elise. Sherry was the lead of Joy Unleashed. She was the lead author for that. And yeah, I think some of what you just said, the two of you should chat. And then Brian Biro, he's always talking about controlling the controllables. And what you focus on is what you're going to cultivate. So if you're focused on your goals, that's wonderful. If you're focused on the limitations and things that are holding you back. So yeah, you have a lot in common. And gosh, I really can't wait to read your chapter. Oh my gosh. You are well read. You have so many fingers into so many different pies and things like that. Are there favorite things that you return to, books, TV shows, nature walks? I mean, are there things that you reach out to that you would recommend to this audience that's listening to us right now as something that will just really connect with them and inspire them and get them happy?
Well, certainly I'm being outside, even when I lived in the city, to be able to get outside was really important to me. But if you're looking for, like book recommendations or thing like that, I've read two recently that, and actually reread one of them. One is called Learning to Fall. And I believe it's Philip Simmons on the turnaround. Yeah, Philip Simmons. And it's about a guy that was from New Hampshire. So there's a lot of the references that he makes. But he had ALS and had a mindfulness practice. And it's funny, it's hurtful, it's sad. I mean, it's just for somebody who's going through something like that, to be able to find the beauty in the world. Those kinds of stories are inspiring to me, because it also makes me like, what do I have to complain about right now? I have whatever my problems are, my concerns, my worries or whatever, but, I've been through some hard things with my partner, my brother, and other situations in life. I've been through those hard things. So it changes your perspective when you, I think we can compare up, when they'll say measuring up. If you compare people you think are doing better than you versus comparing down and looking to see all of the things that you do have and that other people don't have, I feel like that makes a difference. Another great book is called The Happiness Trap by Russ Harris. And he does such a great job in helping us to understand the myth of happiness. Like I said, the Happy Human Academy isn't really about happiness. But he does a really great job. Lots of really practical tools about how to be with, to develop our sense of resilience, how to understand what your values are, how to make sure that we're making what he calls not getting hooked by things, but make moves towards our values and the life that we want to live, as opposed to away moves. And so those two books recently, I think, are really great. I got a lot of things out of those. So
it's wonderful. It's great. Yeah. And we'll put those in the show notes for anybody listening in case you didn't quite catch it fast, but wonderful. So Jennifer White, tell us, how can people get into your orbit, learn from you, benefit from the Happy Human Academy, join in your next big projects? How do people learn more?
I would say the easiest way, you find all the other things, the links and all that, at happyhumanacademy.com rather than go here. You just start there. That's a good starting point, and you can get in touch with me there.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Well, I've enjoyed the conversation. You and I are good friends now. I'm sure that we're going to be speaking a lot more, and I can't wait for the next time we do talk. But Jennifer White, thank you so much for coming on to Our Future is Kind.
And thank you for the invitation. It's been a pleasure, Michael.
This week's Kindness Challenge. This week, practice kindness by noticing one small opportunity each day to help or connect with someone outside your usual circle, while staying fully present in the moment. Want to stay inspired so you can stay kind? Stay inspired by balancing awareness of challenges with gratitude for what you have. Engage in mindfulness, nature walks, music, and laughter to expand your capacity to feel joy and connect meaningfully with others. Regular reflection and small acts of presence can fuel your energy to act with kindness daily.
You've been listening to Our Future is Kind podcast, where building what's next is a choice. Make your next choice a good one and help build the future we want to live in.